Clinton gave a simple reason for using a private server based in her home in Chappaqua, New York.
I opted for convenience to use my personal email account.
Former U.S. Attorney Joe DeGenova sees a different motive: concealment, not convenience. Clinton's private server hid her emails from Congress, reporters, and investigators.
When people filed Freedom of Information Act requests to the State Department, for a number of years, they got back things saying, we have no records. It's called a no records response. Now, think about this for a second. No records for the Secretary of State on any email account in the State Department. Alarm bells should be going off everywhere inside the State Department, and yet they didn't. And the State Department filed affidavits under oath that there were no records. Yet, at the same time, there were people in the State Department who knew that Mrs. Clinton had no government account, but that all of her emails were going through a private server, unsecured, in Chappaqua, New York. This is beyond belief that no one said, where the hell are Hillary's emails?
Right.
Yeah, and at that point, nothing happened. I think the amount of duplicity and deception and lying and perjury that has been committed in the Freedom of Information lawsuits involving you and other people is staggering. This server was set up to do exactly what it accomplished. It was designed so that no records would exist at the State Department, so that when Freedom of Information Act requests were filed there, the answer would be, we have no records.
Clinton repeatedly denied that was her motive.
And you wanted to make it a little more difficult for congressional investigators to subpoena your government emails, and a little more difficult for Freedom of Information Act requests. Is that a fair theory or no?
It's totally ridiculous. That never crossed my mind.
But her actions frustrated Judicial Watch and others who filed FOIA, Freedom of Information Act requests. Judge Emmet Sullivan presided over one major FOIA case involving Clinton.
He got very frustrated at one point and turned to the government attorney representing the State Department and said, I want one question answered. It should be very clear. Who authorized use of the server?
My use of personal email was allowed by the State Department.
Not so, says the State Department's Inspector General's report. Page 37 states there's no evidence that the Secretary requested or obtained guidance or approval to conduct official business via a private server. As the Inspector General, Steve Linick, explained to the House Oversight and Government Affairs Committee.
I can tell you our report said that she didn't have approval. None of the officials, the senior officials who were there at the time, gave her approval or were even aware that she had a server, according to them.
The IG's report explains on page 27 that employees generally must use department information systems. Assistant IG Jennifer Costello summarized the State Department's policy,
which says that day-to-day operations must be conducted, I'm paraphrasing, but must be conducted on authorized information systems. So in order to exclusively use personal email for official business, Secretary Clinton would have required approval.
Clinton never asked for approval. The FBI's report on page 10 states, Clinton told the FBI that she did not explicitly request permission from State to use a private server. If Clinton had asked, she would have been turned down. Page 37 of the State Department's IG report states officials would not approve because of security risks.
The reason we know this is because the officials we interviewed at the department, both in the Office of Diplomatic Security and the Office of Information Resource Management, told us that.
Clinton's emails were on her private server, not a government system. So the State Department had no Clinton emails to give when it received FOIA requests for them, a concern for Congressman Trey Gowdy.
How would those FOIA requests have been responded to and complied with if they didn't even have the records?
Well, as we identified in our previous report on FOIA, it would have been difficult if the records are not part of the agency record-keeping system to respond to FOIA.
I want you to assume an absurd hypothetical that Secretary of State has exclusive use of personal email and that she is corresponding with someone who also uses personal email. You with me?
I'm with you.
How in the world is the State Department ever going to capture that email?
It would be, and this is something we addressed in our FOIA report, it would be difficult because...
That'd be a challenge, wouldn't it?
It would, because only records under the agency's control are subject to FOIA. So in other words, the department wouldn't be able to reach in necessarily to a private account. So
Well, you wouldn't even know about it, would you? If it's personal to personal, how would you know about it?
You wouldn't know about it.
This system was designed to deny access to public records for 4 years, records that belong to the people of the United States, not Mrs. Clinton.
And that was the point, the motive for setting up the private server, to conceal Clinton's emails. Did President Obama set the tone for the Clinton investigation? Let's take a look at the words he used regarding Clinton's email. April 10, 2016, Fox News Sunday.
Now, what I've also said is that, and she's acknowledged, that there's a carelessness in terms of managing email.
3 months later, here's how FBI Director Comey described Clinton and her associates' use of email.
There is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information.
Obama says carelessness. Comey says extremely careless. Coincidence? Now let's consider another Obama statement regarding Clinton's use of a private server.
She would never intentionally put America in any kind of jeopardy.
3 months later, here's what Comey said.
Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information.
Obama says Clinton never intentionally. Comey says Clinton never intended. Another coincidence? Or was the president trying to influence Comey?
I do not talk to the Attorney General about pending investigations. I do not talk to FBI directors about pending investigations. I guarantee that there is no political influence in any investigation conducted by the Justice Department or the FBI, not just in this case, but in any case.
And she will be
full stop, period.
And she will be treated no differently?
Guaranteed, full stop. Nobody gets treated differently when it comes to the Justice Department because nobody is above the law.
Nevertheless, President Obama repeatedly defended Clinton's use of a personal server. October 10, 2015, CBS's 60 Minutes.
I can tell you that this is not a situation in which America's national security was endangered.
April 10, 2016, Fox News Sunday.
I continue to believe that she has not jeopardized America's national security.
The president also minimized the importance of the classified emails.
There's classified and then there's classified. There's stuff that is really top secret, and there's stuff that is being presented to the president or the Secretary of State that you might not want on the transom or going out over the wire.
But stuff you can get in open source, the president went on to say. As it turned out, 3 months later, the FBI report would identify 22 Clinton emails that were more sensitive than top secret. That's as classified as you can get. And intentional or not, President Obama's statements telegraphed his views to the voting public, the FBI, and the Justice Department. Maybe that's why Attorney General Lynch instructed FBI Director Comey to call the Hillary Clinton probe a matter, not an investigation, as he later explained to Congress.
And I want to know, was she going to authorize us to confirm we had an investigation? And she said, yes, but don't call it that, call it a matter. And I said, why would I do that? And she said, just call it a matter.
The Clinton probe is further tainted when local news caught Lynch meeting with Bill Clinton at the Phoenix airport.
ABC 15 has confirmed former President Bill Clinton was in town and met up with U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch as she was arriving in Phoenix.
She claimed they did not discuss his wife's matter.
Our conversation was a great deal about his grandchildren. It was primarily social and about our travels.
The two talked on June 28, 2016, just days before the FBI's July 2nd interview of Clinton. Bill Clinton seeking out and meeting Lynch caused an uproar. For Lynch, it was an obvious appearance of impropriety, and she knew it.
I certainly wouldn't do it again. Because I think it has cast this shadow over what it should not.
Nevertheless, Lynch didn't recuse herself from the case. Instead, on July 1st, she said she'd accept whatever final decision was recommended by the FBI and the Justice Department's career prosecutors. That same day, FBI attorney Lisa Page texted the FBI's lead investigator, Peter Strzok. Page sarcastically noted that Lynch's position was hardly a profiling courage, quote, since she knows no charges will be brought, end quote. On July 5th, Comey made the no charges recommendation public. Attorney General Lynch defended the decision.
I received the recommendation of the team, and that team was composed of prosecutors and agents. It was a unanimous recommendation as to how to resolve the investigation. I saw no reason not to accept it, and again, I reiterate my pride and faith in their work.
This case was investigated by a group of professionals, career FBI agents. The very best we have were put on this case.
3 of that very best group have resigned, been fired, or demoted. All face criminal prosecution. FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe was fired for lying to government investigators. Peter Strzok, the lead investigator in the Clinton case, is talking to prosecutors and may already have a plea deal. The same for attorney Lisa Page, who was demoted last year and resigned May 4th, 2018. Strzok and Page sent thousands of texts to one another. They left no doubt about their political views. He wrote Trump as an idiot. She described him as loathsome and another time as a menace. But perhaps the most troubling text suggested a scheme against Trump. Strzok wrote, I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he, meaning Trump, gets elected. But I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. The insurance policy was the FISA warrant that was used to spy on Team Trump, hoping to unearth evidence to smear Trump before the election or force him from office if he won. In hindsight, Comey's defense of his team rings hollower than ever.
This organization and the people who did this are honest, independent people. We do not carry water for one side or the other. That's hard for people to see because so much of our country we see things through sides. We are not on anybody's side. You can call us wrong, but don't call us weasels. We are not weasels. We are honest people, and we did this in that way. Whether you disagree or agree with the result, this was done the way you would want it to be done. I hope people will separate 2 things: questions about facts and judgment from questions and accusations about integrity. As I said before, you can call us wrong, you can call me a fool. You cannot call us weasels, okay? That is just not fair. And I hope we haven't gotten to a place in American public life where everything has to be torn down on an integrity basis just to disagree. You can disagree with this. There is just not a fair basis for saying that we did it in any way that wasn't honest and independent. That's when I get a little worked up, sorry.
Comey's remarks were blasted the next day by former U.S. Attorney Joe DeGenova.
It is very clear that from the moment he took control of this investigation, he decided that he was not going to recommend the prosecution of the first female nominee of a major party for President of the United States. The FBI director made a political decision. He did not make a law enforcement decision. And every step that he took in conducting this investigation, quote unquote, which it was not, shows you categorically that it was not a legitimate investigation. His pretense yesterday and at the other hearings that he was deeply offended that anyone would question the integrity of his investigation. You'd have to be a loon not to question the integrity of his investigation. It's so blatantly obvious that this was like a cheap prize fight and he took a dive. That's what this was. This was a law enforcement dive.